Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to bring you the methods behind the madness of PR strategies. And just wanted to give you a little information about myself. My name's Marika Flatt, and I started in book publicity over 20 years ago with a small firm out of Austin, back when not even everybody was on email at the time. So we were doing publicity quite differently 20 years ago. And I started PR by the book a little over 15 years ago. We are also based out of Austin. We have a branch in Nashville as well. And so I've seen book publicity go through a lot of different phases over the years. And we, of course, do things quite differently now than 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And so I think it's really fun to talk about those differences. And being in this industry over 2 decades, obviously we work pretty hard to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we are offering the latest and greatest. We're doing things that get results. We are utilizing technology. We're trying to meet the media where they're at. And that is, I believe, the key to this business. And a friend of mine in the book industry said not too long ago that we are business athletes. And I love that term because it really gives you a visual of what it takes to survive over 2 decades in the book industry. And not only survive, but thrive. And so we have fortunately been involved in this industry long enough, and we work with a lot of different types of clients in that sometimes we're working with publishers, sometimes we're working with authors who have a mid-tier to large size publisher, and sometimes we're working with self-published authors. And so it's a really fun journey. We get to spend a lot of time really guiding people along the process. And so hopefully I'll bring you some information today that will guide you along your process here. So let's first talk a little bit about PR and marketing. They are very different. And we have a lot of people who come to us who don't necessarily understand all the differences in what we do as publicists versus what it is your job to do, or your publisher's job to do, or your distributor's job to do, or your office assistant's job to do. And so it's good to look at these differences here. And I can even give you more specific information on some of these that you'll see in red here under PR. Actually, blurbs, we at PR by the Book don't get into that piece very often because a lot of times when our clients come to us, that piece is already done. It's typically handled by their publisher, or if they don't have a publisher, they have already sought out blurbs for the back cover of the book. However, we do utilize those blurbs in our pitching and utilize quotes from not only other media, but if they have a blurb from somebody that's a topic expert in their field, we can use that as well. Media outreach. This is what we spend the majority of our time on as publicists. We will talk a lot about that today. So we, as book publicists, our main job is to get our client media exposure. And media exposure comes in quite a few different formats, from broadcast interviews, that can be radio and television, to print opportunities, magazines, newspapers, newsletters, to now, of course, lots of digital opportunities as well. E-zines, different types of online magazines, bloggers, podcasts, influencers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail as we go along here. Positioning the author as a spokesperson, that is what we are doing day in and day out. what we like to tell people is that your book is only a calling card. You are your expertise. You are there to inform, educate, entertain a media audience. And so we are positioning you and branding you as an expert, as a spokesperson for various topics. And some of our clients might only have a couple of different topics that they are experts on. Others might have a wide range of topics. And, you know, sometimes it's a blessing and a curse if you have a lot of different topics that you can delve into, because it's a blessing because there's a lot of different avenues that we can go as publicists, but it can be a curse in that you really have to be very focused and very strategic, and you need to have a plan, and you can't be all over the place with what are you going to do week to week, month to month. Speaking opportunities. At PR by the Book, we do not go out and find our clients speaking opportunities. We are not speakers agents, but when our clients are out speaking, we are working to get media surrounding those events. And even if a client is going to speak at a conference and it's not open to the public, for instance, we're still trying to get our author, our expert, media exposure in that particular market. Trade reviews, those come early in terms of talking about timelines. When it comes to book publicity, trade reviews are the ones that you have to plan farthest out for. So trade publications like Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, Forward, they're wanting to receive advanced review copies of books 4 to 6 months out, ideally. You can squeeze in and get a little bit closer into that timeline if you need to. But first and foremost, that is the #1 action item in a publicity campaign if that is part of the strategy. We have worked with Patagonia Books for nearly 6 years now as their publicity firm, and they are a fantastic case study looking at having lead time to promote their books and to get their authors opportunities where other clients might not have those opportunities because of a shorter lead time. So, you know, we had a book that we worked on, and actually we got to start back in August of 2017 with galleys for this book that does not even come out until next month in April 2018. And so it's been a long process. And because of that, because we were able to get galleys out, we were able to secure quite a few very targeted print opportunities for them. It's a book called Swell, and we were able to get print magazines in the sailing industry and the surfing world. And so that's been really exciting. Writing pitches and press materials. We write press materials in month 1 of a campaign. That's one of the first things that you need to do to get everything in place. But keep in mind that once you have your press materials, you're constantly tweaking and you're constantly coming up with new hooks and angles for media. And so even though you have press materials in hand that are a press pack, or we have a piece that we call our experts page that's online, we're writing new pitches all the time. So we might have a hook that we're using in March, and by the time May gets here, we might not be using that angle anymore, but we've developed 2 or 3 more. And so you really need to be nimble with your press materials. Now, over on the marketing side, you see advertising, Amazon Co-op, BookBub, book trailers, catalog copy, librarian outreach, metadata, websites. That is all marketing that either the publisher or the author would handle. Now, where you see this nice little pretty Venn diagram here, author tours and events, I talked about that a few minutes ago, where an event might be set up by a publisher. Maybe it's a book signing, and we are working to get the media for that event. Awards, Typically, we don't handle the kind of heavy lifting of award submissions, but we do have clients who ask us to consult with them along the way. And so we can help them figure out what awards are important for them to be going after and the process for that. Giveaways, we like to offer giveaways, especially to our blogger friends when we do virtual book tours, which we'll talk about here a little bit more down the road. But it's nice for us to have giveaway copies on hand that we can offer. And social media, that's a big one. Another one that we'll be talking about in this presentation, how social media plays a big part now in book publicity, what we do as publicists versus what you can do as an author or a small independent press, and how important it is that those pieces of the puzzle are working together well throughout the campaign. So let's talk about types of media opportunities. You'll see book reviews over here on the left because typically that is the first thing that an author or a publisher will think about when hiring a publicist. And those are great, and those are very valuable, but there's all types of other media opportunities that we're going after on a daily basis that are also very valuable and fall under this umbrella of book publicity. And so you can see all of those different types of media opportunities, and we go about pitching them in different ways. Some are more popular than others. Some the client might prefer over others, and those are always conversations that we're having with our clients along the way. So for instance, we might start out a campaign and have an initial phone conversation with an author. By the way, our clients are based coast to coast. We also have clients in Canada. We oftentimes will not ever meet our clients face to face, and that's fine. It's a real treat when we do get to meet our clients face to face. We love that. But in this digital world, it's not necessary. And so we might have that initial conversation with our client and talk about what types of media opportunities are you most excited about? Where do you see most value? What do you enjoy doing? If you like to write and you want to have contributed pieces available to us throughout the campaign, that's fantastic. We'll use those. We'll get those placed. Are you good on radio? Are you comfortable with that? Or does it make your skin crawl? If you're not good on radio and you can't carry a conversation, maybe that's not a media opportunity that we need to spend much time on. Or what about TV? TV is really short and concise and to the point. You might only have 2 to 3 minutes for a TV interview. So are you able to talk in sound bites? Or does it make you want to go into a complete sweat at even thinking about being on a TV set? So we have those types of conversations with clients so we can figure out what types of media make the most sense to them. Is it the types of media that we're also, as publicists who have a lot of experience, thinking about? Or are there places that we're not lining up and we need to have those conversations? So for instance, let's say a client says, I really want to do radio. That would light my fire. I'm so excited about radio shows. But maybe they have a novel. Maybe they're a fiction author. And maybe there's just not a whole lot of backstory to share there. And so maybe we might have that conversation and say, radio is really not a great avenue for novelists right now, unless you're a Stephen King or a John Grisham or an Anne Rice. If you're not a celebrity author and you're writing fiction, that might not be the best use of our time. Maybe we should spend more time on getting you book reviews up front, or getting you blogger opportunities, or maybe contributing excerpts from your book, or maybe trying to get calendar listings for all these book signings that you're going to do. So we have those conversations. Not only have I been a book publicist for over 20 years, all of our campaign managers are very experienced book publicists and actually worked in-house at publishing houses for years before they came to us. And so we know where an author fits into this media landscape, and we will have those conversations, and we're not afraid of hurting someone's feelings necessarily. We know that you're paying us for our expert opinion, and we have been in the trenches. And so we know, okay, are you suitable for national TV? Or if you're not, we will tell you up front, this is not a segment we would pitch to national TV. It's just, it's not going to work. It's not going to fly. It's just going to be a waste of our time, and you're paying for our time. So we will have those honest conversations up front. Let's talk about media landscape and trends here. So we have a subscription to Cision Media Database, which is said to be the leading database of the PR industry. And a lot of individuals and independent presses do not have subscriptions to Cision because it is quite pricey, but we as a boutique firm have access to that. And so we like to keep our finger on the pulse of where are the trends in media. And so you can look at this pie chart over here and see, wow, daily newspapers, only 9% now. Weekly newspapers, 9%. Television, only 16%. Radio, a little bit higher, 23%. And same with online blogs, online and bloggers, 23%. So as you can see, the landscape is showing us that people are reading more online than they are in print magazines here, 23% versus 20%. So it doesn't take a scientist to look at information like this and say, okay, where should we be spending our time as publicists to get our clients who are authors more media exposure and more followers and fans and readers? So we do pay attention to this, and we look at this very seriously when we're coming up with a strategy for where to spend our time to promote a book. Now, think about, where do you get your news? Where do you find information as a consumer? Are you reading your news of the day online? Personally, I have a daily subscription to a news service called The Skim. I get an email every morning. I can skim the daily news very quickly. I enjoy their style of writing. They're somewhat irreverent sometimes, but have a really good sense of humor when it's appropriate. And I enjoy getting a quick snapshot in the morning of the daily news. I also will read articles online. I read newsletters. So I get quite a bit of my information digitally. However, I still love my print magazine subscriptions. And I have about 9 or 10 print magazine subscriptions. And I spend time relaxing, reading those magazines. And if I'm on a plane somewhere, because I travel quite a bit, I take those magazines with me, and I really enjoy flipping through those magazines. I still do watch the local news at 9 p.m. at night. I live in a town that has a 9 p.m. broadcast, as many of us do. And so I watch my local TV news at night. That's the only time I'm in front of a TV to watch news. I don't have an opportunity in my schedule to watch it in the morning or throughout the day, but others are still watching, as you can see here. Cable TV news, 31%. Nightly news, 30%. Sometimes I will have that on in the background. But you can see digital news, it's important. It's important to be on these social networking sites. So all of this is important for you to be aware of, and to have this data at your fingertips and know, how are people getting their information. Now let's talk a little bit about the state of media now. So we're obviously in the first quarter of 2018 right now. Our latest information is from 2017. So when you think about, how do you get a pitch to a producer, to a journalist, to a freelancer? Look at this data. It's email, 92% email. Now here at PR by the Book, We still do phone pitching, and I still believe in it. I started learning phone pitching 20 plus years ago, and I believe in it. We used to call it smiling and dialing. We don't do it as much anymore. We rely more on email because that's how they want to get the information. That's how they want to be contacted. And we have to play along with that game. So you could spend 40 hours a week on the phone, but you're not going to get as much of a response as you are going to get via email. And that is the world that we live in. And as publicists, excuse me, we play by those rules. So we spend a lot of time on email, and we are using it ourselves throughout the week. And we are making sure that if we're trying to get back in touch with our outlets, that we are contacting them in the way that they want to be contacted. So it's important. It's important to make sure that you are reaching them the way they want to be reached. All right, let's talk here a little bit about a media kit and what's important to have on hand. So right here, you'll see this checklist. Book covers are really important. I cannot stress enough about how important it is to have a great book cover. And in this day and age with self-publishing, unfortunately, there are a lot of bad book covers out there, and people think that they might cut a corner or save a few dollars on getting just kind of a standard book cover. Well, as publicists, we have to believe in our product. Media will judge a book by its cover, just like every other consumer. And so we look at that when we're vetting out a potential client. We look at the book cover, and we will be honest about it. And we will ask someone if we think that it is a project that we want to be a part of, but the book cover is challenging, then we will tell the client up front that that might be a challenge. And you might be running into that if you are pitching your own book that maybe doesn't have a very contemporary cover, maybe it looks self-published. That might be a challenge that you're coming up against, and it can and will affect your media results day in and day out. I cannot stress that enough. We are happy to really dive in even before a campaign starts and be part of a focus group for a potential client who is trying to decide on their book cover. We do that at no extra charge because we believe that a book cover really sells. A headshot, again, you want it to look crisp. You want it to be contemporary. You want it to reflect who you are right now, not who you were 20 years ago. So, you know, pay some money to have a professional photographer take some headshots and have fun with it. Kind of play around, get comfortable with what you want your headshot to look like. Short descriptions. I cannot stress enough how important in this day and age, in 2018 and beyond, how important it is to be short with what you're saying to media. We are getting more and more and more concise. And we have to, because, you know, that's just, our attention spans are very short in this day and age, and the world around us has made us that way. And media is no exception. They're very busy. They have very little time to look at emails that come across their desk. So short is key. Author bio, it can't be too long. We have to basically take everything we know about you as an author and put it into a couple of paragraphs. And so it can't be a full page bio, because oftentimes media outlets will not read a full page of bio information. Talking points are really important. We at PR by the Book, we're constantly brainstorming and thinking about what can our clients talk about? What's going on in news of the day that they can latch on to? Are there months coming up that make sense to tie into this topic? Is this a topic that people would be talking about around graduation for some reason? Is it a topic that people will be talking about around Mother's Day for a particular reason? Is this something that we need to get out there for Lung Cancer Awareness Month or for Memorial Day? So we're, as publicists, that's how our brains work, and we're just constantly thinking about what talking points make sense for our clients. Blurbs, we talked a little bit about those before. They matter, but I will tell you to spend your time getting a quote from somebody that makes sense for your book and your topic. You don't need to waste a bunch of time just to get a one-sentence quote from someone who doesn't have a title that relates to your book. For instance, pediatrician or MD or head of schools, or I'm just thinking of ones that would matter if your book related to those types of topics. If you're just out to get a quote from somebody who's also written a book, but it doesn't really tie into yours, it's not really going to be as effective as what you might hope for. So, spend your time there. Let me get this up here where I want it to be. Tour dates, not everybody has to be out talking and doing events. And that is really a thing in the past of authors really, getting out and traveling from coast to coast. Now, I will tell you, we have a couple of clients right now who are on tour, and it does make sense for them. And we are going to those markets. In fact, we have 3 or 4 clients right now out of about 20 to 25 who are touring around. And for different reasons, it makes sense for them, but it does not have to be a part of your overall publicity plan. What we tell people about video and trailers is that if you're going to put money and time and effort into a trailer, it needs to be a good one, because we've seen a lot of bad trailers over the years, and those are not trailers that we would want to be utilizing in our pitching efforts, because we don't think it puts your best foot forward. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do video, make sure it's something that is contemporary enough or catchy enough that people will be interested in. Website, it's very difficult for us as publicists to be pitching someone that does not have a website, because what's the first thing that a journalist is going to do when we send a great pitch to them and they're interested? The first thing they're going to do is either go to the website for that person, or they're going to start trying to find them on social media. So they're going to look them, we try to provide those handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those handles, making it really easy for our contacts to find, where they don't have to go Google sleuthing around. But we put those front and center on all of our pitches, our experts pages, our press packs. But we can only do so much on our end to get them interested, and then it's your role as an author or a small publisher or a mid-tier publisher, or whatever size you might be, to really, we kind of hook them, and then you pull them in through your online presence. So these are just 5 questions that are helpful for you when you're thinking about what makes me pitchable to the media. You have to be different from what they're seeing out there. You have to be something new and shiny and something that they don't see every day. So for instance, let's say you're a cookbook author. There has to be something new and different about your book in order to adequately pitch it to the media and expect to get a response. So it might be something within your backstory that makes you different. It might be something new and creative that you've done with your book. It might be a foundation or a mission that you're working towards. So you really have to kind of think outside the box. So does it solve a problem? Because in our world today, media are looking for experts to solve problems, to come on and say, okay, this is going on in our world. This is what you need to know to solve this problem. And of course, it being important, I mean, is it something that people need to know about? Or is it more of a feature-y kind of thing that they could put out there? You want to level up the importance of it and make them understand that this is something that they need to be paying attention to. And of course, why should they care? Because, you know, there's got to be something in it for them. You have to put yourself in their position. You can't be just thinking about it from your point of view as an author of a book that is your baby and you believe in. You have to be empathetic to their point of view and think, okay, they've got ratings, they've got an audience, they've got a boss. So they have to constantly be thinking about how does this serve their community? And, you know, what makes you different from the other 10 people that they already heard about this morning? You know, because they're getting a lot of different pitches. So the fact that you were in law school and decided you wanted to write a book, that doesn't make you different. The fact that you were a mom and decided to write a book, that doesn't make you different. Those things are done all the time. And so you really, here again, need to think outside the box. Content is king. So anything that we can add to your package, your story, to make you new and different is great. And in this world that we live in, people, media, consumers, everyone, we love images. We love things that are visual. And so we're utilizing images, whether it be a great book cover, a great headshot, images from a book, back images that tell a story. We're constantly looking to see, you know, how can we amplify that message? Because you have to pay attention to what's going to move the needle in 2018. It's not going to work to pitch something like you did 5 years ago, because now we have Instagram, and that's very visual, and that's a very popular social media network. And, you know, teenagers are using Snapchat, and even Pinterest, which is very visible, is kind of having a comeback now. So you have to get more creative. You have to look at the overall umbrella of what is the brand? What are you pitching? And the expectations have to change. We have clients who come back to us time and time again for other projects, new projects, and maybe we've worked with them 2 times in the past on different books that they've put out. And that's one thing that we love. We love long-term relationships. We love the fact that we get to work with people over and over again. But if you put out a book 10 years ago and we worked with you, and then you put out a book 5 years ago and worked with you, and now you have a book coming out in 2018 and we're working with you, your expectations must change, because our expectations as publicists have had to change in terms of, you know, it's not about quantity anymore. Quantity is not where it's at. It's quality of your particular, finding your audience. And when I say quality, I mean getting targeted, getting strategic with, you know, if you've got a book like Swell that I mentioned before, you want to get into sailing magazines. That is one of your main audiences. And that sailing magazine might not have as high a circulation as, let's say, a national women's magazine, for instance. And so we're no longer looking at strictly circulation. We're looking at, where are we finding your audience? And you must change the way that you're viewing publicity to keep up with the times with that type of approach. Because if you're strictly looking at the number of media hits that are coming through in any given month, that's not what's going to move the needle for you and your book and your branding in this day and age. You really have to spend the time to make those very individualized pitches to outlets to tell them, these 5 questions that you see right here. How is it solving a problem for them? What is in it for their audience? And though that has to be an individualized pitch. We used to be able to utilize blast pitching and get lots and lots of results from that. But here again, that's not effective in this day and age. We have to look at each individual media outlet and let them know why it's a fit for them. And because we're all so busy in this day and age, it takes longer for us to hear back from someone. And so you can't expect to send an email and hear back tomorrow from someone, because that's not realistic. We have to give them time. And that's another thing that's different in our world today. If somebody requests a book, and they might be requesting a physical copy, or they might be okay with an electronic copy, guess what? You've got to give them plenty of time to read that book. We are all so busy now. So how much time do we have to sit down and read a book? And most of us, I know myself, I am, a busy full-time businesswoman with kids and a house and a husband. And, I have to carve out that time to read. I love to read. It's one of my favorite things to do. But if I'm reading a book and I want to write a review for it, because by the way, I do write reviews for our blog, it takes time. I've got to work that into my schedule. So that's something that you really need to think about. I want to talk a little bit about virtual book tours here. Let's go on to the next screen. So virtual book tours do really take into account the tremendous overall impact of our digital world today. And they involve these platforms that you see here before you in various ways. And they also take into account really building that buzz online. A virtual book tour is most effective the week of publication date for a book. And so we are working several months out for a virtual book tour, because they used to be called blog tours, but now we look at it in a very much more holistic manner. You're not only going after bloggers, you're going after influencers who maybe have these huge social media networks that you see before you, or people who are reviewing on platforms like Amazon, Goodreads, GoRead.com, podcasters. Podcasters are what I call the golden child now of media, because everybody loves listening to podcasts. And here again, in our busy world, we all have time where we're getting ready in the morning, or we're in a car going from place to place, we're commuting some form or fashion, we're looking for something to do while we work out because we're trying to be healthy. And so podcasts are a big deal now. And a lot of our media databases do not have easy access to podcasts. And so we as publicists are building up our list of podcasts, slowly but surely, because we're looking at this great big digital opportunity that we have through virtual book tours, where within a week's time, we're trying to get as many of these people talking about a book as possible within the week. So bloggers, podcasters, bookstagrammers, influencers, reviewers, they're all coming into play in 1 week. And we really love these. We have a lot of fun with them. And of course, there's a strategy to it, but it's important for anybody looking at how to promote a book to be aware that these opportunities exist out there. And they really do move the needle. So, you need to be on social media. What social media networks do you need to be on? that depends. For you, it depends on your topic. It depends on where you find your joy, because we always tell people that don't try to be on all of these that you see before you. There's others that we don't even have listed here, but you don't have to be on all of these platforms. Pick a couple that make sense for you and that you can get excited about. And sometimes it does really just depend on your book. So Facebook fan pages are very effective for all types of authors, and they're typically the #1 platform that move the needle. So surely for novelists, but even for those who are writing nonfiction, Facebook is kind of where it's at. Twitter, unless you have something that you're commenting on that's news of the day or something that relates to a topic that you might hear on your local news, you might not need to spend time on Twitter, because people are on Twitter for information. And so Twitter is probably not the best platform for a novelist to spend time on. Instagram, very visual. If you are writing young adult, YA, or middle grade, that's where you need to be. If your book is very visual, you can see we've listed out some examples here. What I don't have on here that you'll see down below on Pinterest are cookbooks. Cookbooks are very visual and need to be on Instagram. YouTube is very useful if you have an opportunity to teach in some way. So if you can educate through video, then YouTube might be a platform that you want to spend some time on. Pinterest, like I said earlier, is kind of having a resurgence. It died down a bit for a while, and so it had gotten really popular. So 5 years ago, lots and lots of people were on Pinterest, and they were putting their boards together. They were getting excited, and people would talk about it being kind of like going down a rabbit hole. You would get on Pinterest and you could spend hours on Pinterest. And honestly, I still could if I had the time to do it. But recently there's been a resurgence with Pinterest. And so that might be something that you would consider if you have a book that's appropriate. But the important thing is to be on social media and to build it. Build it before you have something important to say. Build an audience before you get out your megaphone, so to speak, and say, my book is here, my baby's born. And because the funny thing about social media is that it's all about acquisition of followers and fans and likes and people who are retweeting and reposting. And so you've got to get those people there in your corral before you're saying those important things that you want to get out there. So keep that in mind. There's probably a multitude of social media specific workshops that you can tap into through this particular series of Educational Summit Bookselling University. So we won't spend a ton of time on that, but an important piece of the virtual book tours that we do are bookstagrammers. And this is something that publicists have really been paying a lot of attention to over the past 5 years or so. These are avid readers who are on Instagram, and they love sharing book covers with their followers. And so you can see some of our favorites here, some really nice photos, images that individual people just, man on the street kind of thing, where it's a reader and they've taken a great photo and posted it on their Instagram account, and all of a sudden now they are a bookstagrammer. And so we have spent lots and lots and lots of hours finding bookstagrammers and reaching out to them and sending them books and becoming friends with them, because they are an important part of the book publicity world now. So it's something to keep in mind. It's kind of fun to get on Instagram and just start to play around with that and see, you know, what do they like? You can probably look at the screen here and find 2 or 3 that really speak to you, that you really love. I can tell you that I like colors, so this one down in the corner, the bottom right corner, really appeals to me because I love the pop of it. Same with this one that's a couple over from it. So if I was to be a bookstagrammer, which I'm not, but I would do that with my photos. I would bring in a lot of color. I would make it pop. And so it's kind of fun to explore around Instagram now and see what are people doing with books. How are they making them look even better than they are, look even better than the covers that they have on them. So I want to give you an example of a client that we worked with that is amazing at marketing and doing her fair share on the promotion of a book. So Michelle Tam of Nom Nom Paleo fame really made a name for herself several years ago with her first book that was the Nom Nom Paleo book that was a New York Times bestseller. And we were hired by her publisher in 2017 to promote her second cookbook. And we had a lot of fun with this campaign. We were really proud of working with a brand like this because Michelle is amazing with the marketing that she does. And even just today, I got an email because I'm on her newsletter list. And I have so much fun just scrolling through her email and seeing what she's talking about. And she's got links to her YouTube videos, and you can actually watch her create a recipe. And I personally love the type of cooking that she does because I like to eat healthy. And so every time, each week when I get an email from her, I pay attention to it, I read through it, I save it, I print recipes from it, I watch what she's doing online. But she's a really great example of, really going out there and putting together all the important pieces of marketing that an author needs to do. And you can look for yourself on this list and see all the neat things that she's done in the past 7 or 8 years to really do her fair share on the book promotion and marketing. And, that's really what it takes in this day and age. It takes an author going out there and doing a lot on their end to create a brand that people will pay attention to and enjoy following, and really become that brand. So when we are out there, we spend a lot of time placing excerpts or contributed articles from our clients, and the more of a brand that they have, the better, because it's something that the media really can latch onto and get behind. And so if it's someone who, like Michelle with Nom Nom Paleo, has a great following on Facebook, has a Twitter following, who has YouTube videos, who has a fantastic newsletter list, who is talking about a topic that's very trendy, which paleo has been trendy for a while now, has a podcast, has Instagram, all these things are important. So, that's what it takes in this day and age to really, really make it work. A couple of other things that I wanted to talk about while I still have you here today is real quick, let's talk about lead time. Even book bloggers need adequate lead time. So we recently sent out a survey to blogger friends of ours, a couple hundred blogger friends, got a tremendous response back. 68 bloggers filled out our survey. And what we learned from that survey is that they need a 6 to 8 week lead time, just like a lot of other media outlets do. And we also learned some fun facts about what they as book bloggers like to utilize. They like to have that content. Here again, we're all very busy. And so we have less and less time to spend on our own blogs. And so having that content already ready to go for them is a real winner. It helps you make friends when you're trying to get out there and get to know bloggers. So having content for them, whether that be a contributed article, an excerpt, a giveaway copy, a book review, whatever it is that they need, having that all available really makes it easier and makes them want to work with you over and over again. Because they're all out there trying to become influencers themselves. And so that's something to keep in mind. That's the name of the game here in this day and age with publicity, is that, you know, we're really all trying to build up our digital brand as an author, as a company, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes all these pieces of the puzzle working together, and it takes targeting, and it takes tenacity, and it takes, you know, following up over and over and over again, and being patient and being creative and going after a specific outlet that is very specific to your target market with a very individualized pitch. And so what worked 5 or 10 years ago doesn't work today, but we have a lot of other things that do work and that do move the needle with book publicity. And it's important for us to be able to stay on top of those things and be aware of those things. So I wanted to share one final slide with you here with our information and the link to our blog and social media networks, but it looks like I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here with my computer. So maybe I can, no, that's not working either. So I think that I will just share it with you verbally here. So to make sure that you have a way to go along on our journey, and we try to put a lot of educational blog posts up on our blog, which is prbythebook.com and /blog if you want to go directly to it. And we are out there putting a lot of information out on our social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to try to educate authors and publishers and share good information that we think that you might find helpful. So I hope this has been helpful and educational, and that you have taken away some really good ideas to get those creative juices flowing and have some stellar book publicity lined up for your next project.